Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs postgame show. Cubs dropped their second game in a row. They fall to 1-3 against the Philadelphia Phillies. And no, chat, we're not DFAing Jameson Taillon today. Yes, he's been very disappointing this season. No, he was not stellar today. We're not DFAing Jameson Taillon. I don't want to see any chats about Jameson Taillon tonight.
Oh, but you will.
But I don't want to see
it. But you will.
That's a big. You're asking.
I'm waiting. I haven't seen any yet.
You're asking something that you're like now. That's all they're going to put in the chat because you said that.
Tough loss for the Cubs tonight. 5-1. Bats couldn't get going. Taillon got rocked. Still had about 8 strikeouts. But again, just a tough one for the Cubs coming back from London. Blame it on the jet lag. Blame it on the playing conditions tonight. It has been a struggle for Taillon all season long. But tonight I feel like, again, it's just one of those where, Corey, I thought you said something really interesting there at the end. This team has really put all their eggs in the Stroman Steele basket. And if they're not perfect or great atop the National League like they have been, this team's not winning games. And I think that that's an unfair ask, but it's also where they are at this point, given the fact that the other side of the rotation hasn't always held up their end of the bargain, specifically Taillon.
Yeah, I mean, Hendricks coming back and pitching the way that he has is certainly a nice surprise and really takes a lot off of those top two. But it is just such an unfortunate position that the team is in sometimes. Drew Smyly's been very good as well. But in general, it makes those rare times where Steele or Stroman aren't their best and they have an off night feel like kind of the end of the world because the team just can't afford it. And that's such instead of enjoying how good those guys have been, we go to each of their starts and it's like, well, they better do it again because you can't. The rest of the rotation just has not been as reliable as they have. With Taillon specifically, he's had a lot of these starts where he's not terrible, right? Like it's not like he's giving up 8 runs and getting taken out. This isn't like 2021 Arrieta that we're seeing from Jameson Taillon, right? That was awful, right? But we were talking over as we were watching this game, like he just hasn't been good enough. Like that's the thing. And it's easy for me and us to sit here and say that, from these nice chairs and just snap our fingers, like just be better, dude, right? It's of course not that simple, but when you sign a guy to that big of a contract and you expect him to be the number 3 in your rotation, he has had far too many starts that feel like he has just sucked the life out of the game, sometimes before the offense has even gone through the order one full time. And that
did that
just
tonight.
Right. It just isn't. It's not good enough. That's the long and short of it, right? It's a 4-year deal, as we've talked about. You need to get it right eventually. As far as the 2023 season is concerned, he just flat out has not been good enough. And, tonight, like we were talking, like they get back from London, they're maybe jet lag, they have the off day Monday, and they are down a run immediately, right? And 1-0 is not the end of the world, of course. But it just feels like so many of Taillon's starts have gone a similar way where it's like first few innings, you just feel like, man, like if the offense isn't banging tonight, like this game's kind of over, right? It just isn't good enough.
Yeah. I don't think this is his worst start of the year or anything like that. Obviously, Brandon Marsh, he's like giving up the 2 home runs to Marsh is what decided the game. I thought that, he gave up those first 2 runs, which one of them was the solo shot by Marsh. And then for 2 innings, he went 1, 2, 3, and I think in turn it was 7 straight. He retired after he gave up the 2 runs. So I was thinking, okay, maybe he's settling in here. And then he comes out for the 5th, gives up 3 more runs. And it's just like you're back to square one with them. And so like you said, Corey, 2021 Jake Arrieta was awful. Tyler Chatwood, he had a massive walk problem his first year with the Cubs. He led the league in walk rate his first year with the Cubs in 2018. Yu Darvish had his struggles his first year with the Cubs, but managed to figure it out. He also was, throughout his career before coming to the Cubs, even a much better pitcher than Jameson Taillon. So I don't necessarily want to use that as an excuse for Taillon. But what we've seen from Taillon in general, it's just, like you said, it's not good enough. he's had one quality start on the season. And even though there's been multiple starts where he's gone at least 5 innings, he leaves the game and you sit and watch it wanting more because of what he's supposed to be for this team. And again, I understand that, first year of the contract, not like this is well known all across the league. Like guys don't always start their careers with like on a new team in the best start. But it's almost July, bro. Yeah. It's almost July. Like I'm willing to ride it out in April, May, and if I have to go into June, fine. Like, because I'm willing. Me personally, I'm willing to do that. But it's almost July, and I feel like it's not even really been a roller coaster. It's down, kind of up a little, down, down, down. Oh, the quality start up, but then 5 innings, 2 earned. Oh, the bullpen gives up all these runs that were charged to you. Like tonight, he gave up all the runs, and it just felt like you're back to square one to where in some of the starts you saw in April and May.
Yeah,
the injury didn't help either. Like I know the Cubs, they brought him in because they thought that they can unlock some of that second overall pick potential, but we're at a point where I feel like he just needs to get back to doing what he was doing with the Yankees, man. Like, I don't want to...
Which I think they were trying to do over these last few starts.
And I don't want to take away any confidence that I have in the Cubs' pitching infrastructure because, sure, yeah, has this year the pitch lab, quote-unquote, been questionable? Like, have fans had the right to question it? Yes. The Keegan Thompson has been awful. Brandon Hughes, awful. Other guys, awful.
Hughes was hurt.
Well, hurt,
He
whatever.
was playing hurt. But
yeah,
yes,
you're right.
I know what you mean.
They've had guys in the bullpen that have been disappointments, yes. But on the flip side, Justin Steele continues to be great. Julian Merriweather, great.
It's been awesome.
Yeah. Leiter Jr.,
There's
great.
Successes and failures.
They've had success due to the quote-unquote pitch lab. But Jameson Taillon has to be the biggest disappointment in terms of what they brought him in to do, which was not only be a number 3 starter and a guy who can eat you innings, but they legitimately thought that they could unlock, make him better. That is the reason that I bet him to win the Cy Young because I believe so much in that in the pitching infrastructure.
I think when we did our pregame show at Country Club earlier in the year, like I was thinking he was going to be the best pitcher in this rotation.
Yeah.
And that is far from it. And like, just to keep going on your point, like I'm looking at his game log. The one thing too we haven't gotten from him is we have not gotten a single start from him where it feels like he went out there and won you the game. Right. So not only do you have, you have a lot of these games where you feel like, he wasn't good enough, or it was fine. It was 4 or 5 innings, 4 or 5 runs. It's not the worst thing.
You're left wanting more.
But he doesn't have a single game where you go, that was Jameson Taillon's night. He just won you this game. I'm looking at his game log. He has 1 start where he's gone 6 innings or more. Yeah. 1, and it was 6 innings flat. Every other start is less than 6 innings. He also has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, counting live on the air, 6 starts under 5 innings, right? And of course, that's David Ross's discretion. They're different amounts of runs and things like that. But that just, I think, speaks to the whole point, is that not only is he's not going out there and winning you games, not all of these are blow-ups and disasters where it's like 1 inning and, he gives up 9 runs, but there's just a lot of not good starts in this mix. And as you're talking, like whether this is, the Cubs definitely tinkered here, right? We know that. They tinkered, they tried to do some stuff, but as you're noting, like there's going to be, same with the hitters, there's going to be positive examples to stuff like that. There's going to be negative examples. You can take that or leave that. The main point, right, is that at the end of the day, he has to be better. The team needs him to be better. And they signed him, they're paying him to be better. And like I said, you can't just snap your fingers. But when you are a team that is constantly hovering around 500, you're looking to go on a run, you're trying to compete in a 3 or 4 team race in a not very good division, you need better than this. Like, that's just the long and short of it. I don't know how they get there. And, they got 4 years to figure this out, I guess. But as far as this season is concerned, like a bunch of 4 2/3 starts giving up 4 or 5 runs is not going to cut it. It's just not good enough. And this offense isn't, and we'll talk about the offense. I know the chat, like, of course, the offense did nothing tonight. Like, it's not just Tyone. It's a team loss. But on the whole, it's just not going to get it done. Yeah. And as we said, it puts so much pressure. Like, man, if Drew Smyly had not been pitching the way that he had been, if Kyle Hendricks had not come back, like it's killing this team.
Right. And I get it. Like, 2 batters into the game, the Phillies score 1 run, and you're coming off a bad loss, and so like you get that anxiety as a fan. And I'm sure in some aspect, maybe the players are kind of feeling, I doubt it, but I feel like there, in some aspect, there's some sort of, frustration in that.
Maybe they look at who's on the mound and they're like, oh, right. Jesus, we're already down 1. But
I personally will give Ranger Suarez a lot of credit tonight. I thought he was great. When they teed off on him in Philadelphia, I was surprised by it. Because he was pretty good for them in the postseason last year. I think he's a pretty solid left-handed pitcher. But,
I thought Ranger Suarez, real quick before we get to that, I just want one thing with Tyone, putting things in perspective. You were looking at his game log. I'm looking at 12 games in, 12 starts in for the Cubs this year. 40 earned runs already. Total with the Yankees in 32 starts last year, it was 77. So, I mean, not even at the halfway mark right now. And, I mean, the earned runs are way up. And you pointed out, you just want him to be a shell at this point of what he was with New York. And he hasn't been that way.
And give the team a chance to win, right? There's one outing in there that's 6 runs or more, right? So there's one, like, true blow-up outing that was actually, coincidentally enough, the last time he faced the Phillies, right? 2 1/3. 8 runs, 6 of them earned. That's a blow-up outing, right? The rest of them, it's a bunch of 3s and 4s over 3 or 4 innings, right? Like, so again, it's not like this total train wreck, but that's nothing, right? That's not, it's not even worth throwing him out there if that's what you're going to get every night. So as we're seeing, we got a super chat from Mariano talking about, moving him to the bullpen. I don't know.
Thank you, Mariano.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's when you sign a guy, that's the thing.
They did the same thing with Tyler Chapman.
When you sign a guy to this type of contract, like, it's rare that they are going to make such a move unless they feel it's going to be beneficial to him figuring out some of the things that they're trying to tweak. I would be surprised unless these starts start to get worse. Because, like, even tonight...
That, or if someone else, like, emerges. Like,
sure.
I was going to say...
But, like, Ben Brown
has
struggled in a few recent starts. Like,
say Smyly or Hendricks
Killian's gotten shots. So there's not, like... absent obvious answers, right? Like, I would be surprised if they did that unless it truly starts to get worse. We start seeing, like, shorter starts.
The way I would see it is, say it's Hendricks or Smyly have to miss a start or 2, and that gives Wisniewski or Ben Brown an opportunity. They come in, they shove for both starts, and then Smyly or Hendricks comes back, whoever it is, and then you're left thinking, well, this guy's been shoving for us. What do we do with Tyone if he's struggling? That's the only way that I see them actually do it. Unless, like you said, if it gets later in the year, the team is in it, and they can't afford any more bad starts, they either move him to a bullpen or do what they did to Chatwood in 2018 and just put him on the quote-unquote phantom IL.
We talked about leashes in the pregame show, right? We've seen it with position players. They have a little bit more depth there, but they do have the depth in pitching in the minor leagues. We've seen it. They've swapped guys out. Assad was a starter a little bit last year. They were like, hey, put him in. He's looked great in his bullpen role this year. You have him. You have Ben Brown potentially. Wisniewski. When we talked about leashes in the pregame and who some of these guys have a little bit longer, obviously some guys are going to be on the roster. Some are going to get moved up and down with options. How many more starts does Tyone get like this one before it legitimately becomes a question that, hey, you know what? We're trying to win ball games right now. Let's give Ben Brown a shot. Let's give Wisniewski a shot.
If I were a betting man, it doesn't happen because there's too little runway between now and the trade deadline. And if they end up as sellers, they're going to use the second half to get him right because you have him on a 4-year deal. If they are fair. Into it, then I would assume he's not losing games or, they're finding something out. Again, it's it's a tough thing this early in such a big contract to pull something like that unless you really think, hey, if we move him to the bullpen or whatever. And I believe he can't be optioned unless he agreed to it. So it's not like other guys that you can just send them down whenever you want. I just don't see it. But I don't know. It's one of those things where we're very fortunate that Justin Steele and Marcus Stroman have been pitching the way that they are. And, you look at the National League ranking. I think they're number 1 in the National League in starter ERA, even with these starts. So that's how they're, I think, going to look at this as well. Like, you got to get him right. If you can get him right and just get him throwing quality starts, right? 6 innings, 3 runs every, 5 days. I mean, you take that to the moon.
Just limiting the runs a little bit, because it's 5 earned this start, 4 the last one, 3, 4, 6. I mean, just limiting some of the damage.
The real thing to figure out, and I'm not sure where this issue comes from. That's probably more a question for Dr. Brendan Miller there, but he's getting killed by left-handed hitters, absolutely murdered. Those numbers are terrible against left-handed hitters. So that is something that they're going to have to get figured out, because left-handers are just feasting on Jameson Taillon right now. And I know you were talking during the game, like you watch those pitches that Brandon Marsh was hitting out, and it's like, I mean, these are not good pitches. These are bad pitches. So I don't know. I'm with the chat too. Like, and Mariano, another super chat. We appreciate that very much, Mariano. Stay within 3 games going to the Milwaukee series. Yeah, of course. Like that's the key, right? This is a big stretch. This is just 1 game. So it's not how you want it to start. What we're all like talking about is like a huge stretch for this season, but 1 game, they'll go back out there tomorrow and try to figure it out. I see it in the chat, right? Like, again, to reiterate, like, we're just, I think, talking about Taillon because he was a starting pitcher. He was a big signing this offseason. Of course, 1 run and the performance from this offense against Suarez is not good enough, right? Like, that's a no-brainer. And there's a few guys that I think we need to talk about on this podcast. But, like, yeah, of course. Like, most losses are not laid at the feet of one person, right?
And here's the thing with Taillon, too. I mean, season high 8 strikeouts tonight and a ton of swing and miss during that stretch where he retired 7 guys. So it wasn't like it was just a complete implosion bad outing. You're right. It just wasn't good enough. I think that's the synopsis of what we've come up with. It has to be more competitive when you're coming back from a road trip. You got to give your offense a little bit of a chance to catch up, and he didn't tonight. But 5 runs is not insurmountable either. So again, you can't pin. I blame more of tonight on the offense. If we're really putting it, 5 runs is not insurmountable. You should be able to, with the way this team's been scoring runs.
When I think you pointed it out too, it just wasn't a particularly competitive offensive effort tonight. Just a lot of staring at strikes. They went down on called strikes far too much for my liking. And look, so like, I mean, we wondered, right? Like, would they be jet lagged? Would they be kind of in a weird space coming back from London? And like, look, the schedule is the schedule, right? Like, you can complain about that all you want, but like, that's what it was. They wrote that a long time ago. Like, you knew it was going to be the case. But yeah, just not a very competitive effort from the offense tonight. They had that one little rally late in the game, but that was kind of buoyed by a couple of soft contact balls finding grass, and otherwise, it was not a particularly exciting effort from this offense
hit the ball hard
tonight.
a couple times.
The top 6 in the lineup went 2 for 22.
Yeah, how many strikeouts in there too? Probably a ton. I mean,
1,
Happ
2,
had a couple,
3,
Morel
4,
had a couple.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just unacceptable. And you're right. Our guy Jared Willis pointed this out on Twitter. Just a ton of guys going down looking. And I get that the zone there, he was calling them low tonight. A couple of them early on really did hit the bottom of the zone. It was just minuscule, but there's still strikes. We saw Jan Gomes look at strike 3. We saw Morel look at a called strike 3. That was right down the middle of the plate. I mean, the at-bats simply were not competitive tonight in many of the facets.
And this is a guy in Suarez who they hit the last time they faced him. So I was a lot more hopeful for this offense tonight. But yeah, I mean, look, you got a few guys going through it. Seiya is in an awful funk right now. Bellinger, I thought the batted balls looked better tonight. He had 2 hits tonight, but obviously he's coming into the game in a pretty bad stretch as far as the numbers go. Ross is obsessed with playing Trey Mancini, which if you guys want me to go on a 25-minute rant about how mad that makes me, I certainly can.
He did it the entire time we were on the couch watching the game.
But, you know, yeah, like, look, and again, Brendan and I talked about this on Sunday, and we've talked about this a lot. Like, David Ross is moving guys around, right? We see Seiya up to the 2 slot. You've got Bellinger all the way down in the 7 slot in the lineup. Dansby's moved around a bunch tonight, hitting in the 5 spot. Like, Ross is trying stuff, man, but they just aren't able to find a consistent rhythm with this offense night in, night out that I think gives you confidence that they're going to be able to score enough runs to win each game.
You know how I don't really complain a lot about the lineup? I will say this, like, sometimes it does feel like they play the matchups, like, too much. Like, for instance, I understand Mike Tauchman is better against righties. But you know what? All he's done since he's been here is work great at bats and get on base. He leads a team in on-base percentage. Or he's at least right up there with Ian Happ, right? Like, and the offense was playing well with him leading off, right? So, like, again, I understand why he wasn't in the lineup tonight. It was because they were facing a lefty. But he's playing well. Why not play him, you know? Especially coming off the off day and the quote-unquote, like, the travel back from London. I feel like that's, like, forget the analytics or whatever when it comes to that. Like, it's like they play the matchups too much sometimes.
I agree with you. I think it's one of Ross's I think,
and I'm someone who, like, I don't really complain about the lineup tonight.
Yeah.
I didn't complain about Mancini being in there. Like, he had a 2-run double on Sunday in London. I thought he was swinging, like, in his one at bat, he was swinging it well, and he would have stayed in the game if he didn't have that awful error. You know what I mean? Like, I've thought that in recent games, the offense for him had been okay. But yeah, tonight, 3 strikeouts. Like, and a lot of them were looking too. It's just, he did not see it well tonight. And, you know, Ian Happ, hitting the 2 double plays, had a strikeout as well. He's not been as great from the right side of the plate this year as he has the left. Why is he batting third? You mentioned Seiya Suzuki. Yeah, he's really struggled in the month of June. Why is he batting second? I get it that, you know, he has a good play approach. He can work some walks, puts the ball in play. Like, I understand why he's in batting second, but he's not playing well right now.
I don't think he looks good either. I was texting Brendan about this. Brendan is more obsessed with hands and feet and, like, watching this stuff. David Ross has alluded to Suzuki dealing with something kind of repeatedly over the last couple weeks, and, like, they won't talk about it. Nobody will talk about it, but, like, he doesn't look right. And we're really only a couple weeks removed. I think Seiya was at, like, a 125 WRC plus. He had a nice stretch and, like, looked really good.
He was
and
very good.
It has torpedoed. I mean, he is now at a 102 WRC plus, so he's 2% above league average. I mean, he is close to being a below league average hitter somehow, which a month ago I would have said was crazy. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, we have a bunch of individual things we can get into, but overall, I think we had a super chat that we got that, you know, I think summed it up. The offense is too inconsistent to win consistently. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, look, like, it's.
We had a couple comments in there asking what would our particular lineup look like. And I'm with you, Cody. There's a few things that will make me gripe about lineups. I don't like when Bellinger bats low. I know in pregame I might be contradicting myself. I like the way the lineup looked tonight.
Mastroboni leading off, things like that.
Yes. I think when
you laugh,
like,
but that's the
joke.
Type of stuff.
Yeah.
No, that's the type of stuff that does matter. I don't care how they arrange Suzuki and Swanson and whatever. But, like, when you're putting guys that have a 400 OPS at the top of the lineup, that's what I get mad about.
When he's not in the leadoff role, like he had his night off tonight, I think batting Nico, Swanson 1-2. Again, not saying it would have made a difference tonight. None of those guys hit. Dansby hit the ball really hard every time, but they're all flyouts. It's not like it would have made a huge difference. But I think when Tauchman's out and you don't have another, you know, guy at the top of the bat who's always on, I like Nico, Dansby back to back. Maybe move Happ down to that 5 hole a little bit more when he's in the right hand. We know he swings better from the left side. little things like that. But again, I don't think that the lineup is the last thing we should be talking about tonight. It was Tyone, it was Mancini striking out a bunch, looking at strike 3 on his last at bat, things like that. Seen a lot of that in the chat today. It almost seems to suck the life out of the rest of the offense when you know that it's a guaranteed out. And I think that sucks.
Morel had 3 strikeouts too, and
looking.
And Ian Happ had 2 ground ball double plays. There was a inning. Bottom of the first inning, Suzuki reached on an error, and then the inning ended on a Happ double play.
Before I got back from the microwave.
Yeah. And then basically the same thing happened. The next time Happ was up, Suzuki, I think he didn't walk because he didn't walk. Maybe I'm thinking of 2 other players. But they got a guy on to start an inning, or no, it was with 1 out, and then the double play killed him again.
Happ hitting the 2 double plays tonight.
Yeah, it's just like it's one game. I'm not I wouldn't say I'm worried. No. I wouldn't say that I'm, do I think the Cubs are going to start trending back to 10 under again? No, I don't think that. Again, it's one game. This is one of the most important stretches of the year right now. But yeah, the effort tonight is disappointing based off coming off the loss in London, and you had an off day, and you have this big series against a good team that's in front of you in the wild card race. And to me, all these games up until going into the All-Star break, they matter. And
absolutely.
They got it.
Yeah.
If they're gonna lose, they have to at least give a better effort than this. And the best effort tonight overall was probably the bullpen. That's it.
And we discussed this a little bit, but the vibes were so good after that game on Saturday, right? We're all sharing that gif of Justin Steele coming off the mound, pumped up as hell. Yeah. The vibes were so good. They're up 4-0. I saw people joking that things really shifted on that Mancini error in London, right? That game goes to shit. And now here we are. Obviously, it's not that simple. Especially tonight. But it just is such a drastic shift from where we were after that game on Saturday. And I think to your point, every game here matters. This is it's always easy to compare things to 2016, not just because the Chicago Cubs won the World Series, but
did they?
Yes, the Chicago Cubs.
They won the World Series.
They did win the World Series. Yeah. Okay. It's easy to compare it because that season was so specific in a lot of ways, right? If we were doing a podcast in that season, coming on and complaining about a loss like this in the way, not complaining, discussing a loss like this in the way would be crazy, right? Because that team was so good. They were in first by 15 games for most of the season. So discussing things like that, most of those post games, if we were doing it at the time, after a loss like this, would have been okay, whatever. They're going to win 105 games. Who cares that, this guy was bad tonight? Whatever. It's, throw it in the garbage, go tomorrow. Every game matters. And you're going to be in a situation, I promise you, whoever wins this division, whoever loses this division, you are going to be able to look back and go, boy, if we hadn't lost this game,
and we hadn't
lost this game, we'd be right in this. That's just how this NL Central division is going to be decided. And yeah, that's just how it is.
This is the year where the team is supposed to at least make progress in what they called a rebuild that's not a rebuild. This year is supposed to be one where we as fans we're going to go through the ups and downs, an absolute roller coaster that's going to make us all.
We already have. We're on it right now. Yeah,
we're
living it.
We're at the top going down, and we're waiting to see if we're going to go back up again right now, right? And so, there's
the doctor.
That is, I'm not upset with where they're at right now, comparatively to 3 weeks ago, right? But again, the disappointing effort tonight, considering what this stretch means moving forward. So. I'm disappointed because of the effort. I'm disappointed because Tyone is not getting it. It's not even 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. It's just 5 2/3. Okay, maybe he can build off that
4 or
next.
5 runs, 8
yeah,
hits.
It's just like
6, yeah.
we're
I get it.
like one quality start. That's it, man. And
It will come. I think.
I saw somebody in the chat like asking about Tyone if he pitches on a Sunday. Like,
well, no,
we need him on a Friday.
You went and watched
120.
him pitch on a Sunday against Baltimore, and they lost.
Yeah,
that
they were
game.
wondering if maybe they would cancel each other out. But
No.
We need
yeah.
Tyone on a Friday 120 game where the Cubs don't seem to lose those games. So
And we do have another super chat from Fernando. Appreciate that, Fernando. MLB insisted the Cubs play in smog when they should have postponed the game. Should give them minimal test time after London. Couldn't see a strike.
I mean, it was on the MLB that we played the game. It wasn't on the Cubs.
We talked about that in pregame. Chicago was home to the world's worst air quality today, and they had canceled games a couple weeks ago for the same reason. I know that the air index was worse on the East Coast, but again, it seems like, and I'm not making excuses for the Cubs losing the game tonight because they agreed to play their player personnel.
And Brandon Marsh was hitting in the same air, folks.
Yeah,
So.
that's not the excuse here.
Marsh was in the smog.
Maybe the beard helps him filter some of it
This
out.
was
I
more-
don't know.
this is more
that
of
was a
a-
swamp joke.
Yeah, I got that. Bryce.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I'll shut up now.
My gripe with this isn't geared towards the Cubs losing this game. It's more so the fact that MLB continues to just kind of double back on standards that they set for themselves. I mean, you canceled other games for having extremely unhealthy air qualities. Like, I don't know why, and this is more of me just speaking for a player safety and fan safety perspective. I don't know why the game was played tonight, if I'm being honest. This isn't me saying this is the reason the Cubs lost. They played a bad game. They lost. It's over and done with. But I don't know. I really don't know why they played tonight. And maybe that's just me. But I thought that it should have been postponed on a safety level.
Well,
It
It
wasn't.
probably got through the game pretty well, Kevin, because they could have Goose Island at beautiful historic Wrigley Field, at least from a fan perspective.
I'm sure they had a few, Cody.
Tastes
Right.
good in clean air,
Absolutely.
dirty air, doesn't matter.
Yeah, CHGO, we're supported by Goose Island Beer Company, if you didn't know. Chicago's beer since 1988. They got the Goose IPA, which is a 6-time medal winner at the Great American Beer Fest. Always in style, citrus aroma, bold hop finish. The Tropical Beer Hug, that's one of my favorites, 9.9%. It's dangerously easy to drink. It's very good. 312, classic. And then one of my favorites, the Full Pocket Pilsner. It's an everyday beer. What the Brewers are drinking, not the baseball team. They are Brewers. So
They lost tonight, too.
you got the they did lose. Good. The Blackhawks NHL draft. They're in Nashville right now. They're having an event tomorrow. Presented by Goose
NHL draft
Island.
is tomorrow.
Yeah.
Connor Bedard's coming home tomorrow.
Yeah. So that's some of the events we have coming up. So if you're down in Nashville, go check them out. So grab the Ultra Fresh Brewery exclusive beers at Goose Island Original Brewhouse on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park, or from their tap room on Fulton Street in Westtown. Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer.
You guys like AG1, don't you?
Oh, I drink it every day, Kevin.
So when I started here, I didn't know what AG1 was, but I wanted better gut health. And I talked to my buddy Luke Stuckmeyer, who I'm in for today. Luke is all good, everybody. He'll be back in a couple of weeks. I started drinking it along with Luke, and we shared our journeys together. I said, hey, I'm taking it every morning. I'm having it with my breakfast. It's been a good daily habit for me. I've all noticed right away just an overall feeling of just more energy, better gut health, better immune system. I haven't gotten sick as much. The smoke going on today. Noticed myself not sneezing a whole lot. Haven't had a ton of allergies. I don't know if that all relates. But AG1's been a big part of my beneficial diet every day. It replaced my multivitamin, my probiotic, and it's in a simple drinkable habit, doing it once a day every morning. Science-driven formulation of vitamins, probiotics, whole forest superfoods, and other nutrients. AG1 is raising the standard for quality in the supplemental category. AG1 helps build your health foundation first, and I can confirm to you guys, it's really helped me just get in a better mood. I've been working for 12 hours today. I was on the air at WGN for about 8 hours today, and I came over here, and I got to do Sox Post tonight, but I had my AG1. I'm good to go. Got all the energy in the world. I'm going to have it again in a couple couple of hours here when I'm up for the morning shift once again.
Kevin Wells, the company man.
When he came in, I was like, Kevin, you're glowing. And he said, it's the age you want.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's why Luke looks way younger than what his age is.
Right.
Or it was in contrast to the smoke outside.
Luke is actually 75. Can you guys believe that?
Someone clip that and send it to him. Okay.
Anyway. Back to the Cubs offense.
Anyway.
I want to really quick talk about Ranger Suarez because I was talking to Cody quickly about he's had a very nice couple years here in Philadelphia as a reliever, as a starter. Cody brought up his postseason stuff last year. Is very successful. His last 6 games, 40 innings pitched, 29 hits, only 6 earned runs, 37 strikeouts compared to 10 walks. He's been great, and I think that we need to talk a little bit more about that because his stuff doesn't necessarily pop off the page as earth-shattering, winning stuff, but what's working for him is working for him, and it's working really well. He's been one of the most underrated pitchers in all of baseball this season.
Yeah, his June's been great, like you said. We teed off, the Cubs teed off him in May. His May wasn't very good this year. When the Cubs faced him, it was only his second start of the year. Gave up like 4 or 5 earned runs. But yeah, in June he's been really good. And the Phillies in general have just been playing really good baseball. The Cubs are getting them at the wrong time right now.
And it's so weird because Harper's not hitting home runs. Trey Turner struck out
a couple times at least.
2 times, maybe 3. I can't
2.
remember. It was either 2 or 3 times tonight.
Yeah.
Schwarber's batting under 200, but they're still getting the contributions from certain guys down the lineup. They don't have Rhys Hoskins. They're a good team, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the other thing with this too is that the discussion about Tyone and the offense in particular, I hope doesn't make it seem like it's easy, to beat this Phillies team. Like the Phillies team is in a playoff race the same as the Cubs are, and obviously they went to the World Series last year. They're a talent-filled team, but again, as we're saying, like this is an important stretch, and if you're gonna compete in this division, you're going to have to find a way to scratch and claw some wins, right? And, again, it does relate a little bit back to Sunday, which feels like a game you gave away. So then you come in here and, you just kind of lay an egg here on the pitching and offensive side, and it's frustrating. But, yeah, you're going to have to go back out there tomorrow. I think the Cubs are going to have to figure out what to do in some of these situations, right? I know there was a comment earlier in the chat talking about Jared Young and why he didn't pinch hit at the end of that game. And boy, when I tell you, was I heated about that watching that live, I didn't get it, right? You brought up a guy who not only, but mashes righties, right? Primarily, he's going to be in there against righties, Jared Young. You have Kimbrel, a righty, right? Trey Mancini, another wasted evening at the plate, right? He's staring at strikes. He's grounding out to short. Same thing he does every night, right?
That last strikeout was a tough
just
look.
A waste of time.
Yeah.
And Jared Young doesn't get that opportunity. Now, again, they probably still don't win the game. Maybe Jared Young strikes out just the same. But there's just stuff that, there's a lot of stuff where I go, you know what, I give David Ross credit for that. I give him credit for the way he's managed things, the way that he's, I think, helped certain guys succeed and get comfortable and stuff like that. He's dealt with a mess of a bullpen that he has managed to figure out where guys belong and kind of massage that in a really nice way, the best he can. But there's just some things I do not get, and Trey Mancini continuing to not only play, but hitting against righties late in the game, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
And again, it's the same thing as Tyone, right? Like where this team is at, and every game is never going to be laid on one single person. But there's only so many things we can address on this team, right? Seiya needs to figure it out. He needs to get going, but he's going to be out there. Right? Maybe they drop him down in the order. Maybe they give him a day off if he's dealing with some kind of ailment. But, he's going to play. He's going to be your right fielder, right?
At least the defense is there.
Yeah.
Right?
He made a really nice play.
Yeah, he looks better out there this year. Dansby's going to be at short. Nico's going to be at second. You know what I mean? Hap's going to be in left field. There's just certain things that, they need to fix, address, maybe move down in the order, et cetera, but they're not going to stop playing these guys. right? So we can get under the hood and try to figure out what's been going on with Seiya for the last month or so, but he's going to play, right? Trey Mancini doesn't need to play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's just certain things where it's like I don't understand why they run some of these guys out there every single day. And it's far from the biggest issue on this team, right? But at this point, I just don't understand like what else Mancini has to do for somebody in this organization to say, boy, this guy really doesn't look like a Major League Baseball player.
Yeah.
He doesn't run well. He looks awful on defense.
He doesn't
looks
have a good
terrible
arm.
At the plate. Like
He just doesn't have anything good on defense, man.
2-week stretch where he was hitting the ball well, and it's like congratulations.
They tried to hide him out
right?
in left field.
Yeah.
They tried to hide him out in left field and give Happ a day off a couple weeks ago. We all know how that went. The error in St. Louis on Sunday. And this isn't to rag on Mancini. I'm really trying. I don't want to just bury him completely.
I'm game.
But the way he has been playing, I mean, well below league average hitter right now. He's not slugging. He's not on base. He's chasing. He can't run. He's making critical errors. I think that at some point here, you got to recognize
2-year deal.
Yeah, I don't know, and I think this will have to be
$7 million.
There's no doubt they're looking at it, but he has to be. I think it's going to have to shift more to a bench role here coming up.
Well, he basically has been playing a bench role.
Yeah,
The reason
they've
that
been
he's
playing
out
him
there,
a lot though.
Yeah, because they
Playing him too
faced
much.
lefties the last 2 days. They faced Jordan, or no, it wasn't
Right.
Jordan Montgomery on Sunday, was it? No, it was Matthew Liberatore on Sunday, and then today was a lefty. He's never going to be in there against righties. I agree. Like what you guys are saying, yes, he's been bad. I said in pregame that if they're going to play him, you can only play him against lefties in DH role. And he just, 3 strikeouts tonight. Like, yeah, he didn't improve his chances to get any more playing time. That's for dang sure. Who else are you going to play in the DH role against lefties? Could have gone with Amaya. I'm not against it.
That day's got to be
Wisdom
getting
is
closer.
still on the injured list, like when he comes back, but Wisdom's also struggled since April ended. Like they don't have a lot of options against lefties in the DH role unless it's Morel. But again, when they've been doing this consistently, when lefties are pitching, they don't play Tachman in center. They don't play him at all. And so then they put Morel in center.
Well, but I think that does go to your point sometimes about
Matchups.
leaning into handedness too much, where it's like, bro,
yes.
like
So-
Trey Mancini should never be out there if it were up to me. Like, I let Tachman hit against whoever. He's been hot. Let him play. If he comes back down to earth, so what? You know?
Right. No, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm just explaining why you guys probably are like, why is he out there so much? This is why, because they play the matchup game way too much in some aspects with certain players. When otherwise they're like, oh, it's Ian Happ, oh, it's Nico Horner, oh, it's Dansby Swanson, oh, it's Seiya Suzuki. All those guys are gonna be in the lineup in every day, as they should. Even though Seiya has struggled the most out of all those guys I just mentioned, he's gonna be in the lineup every day because his defense in right field is at least
above average.
And
He's got a great arm,
and
smart.
And you're paying him $85 million over the next 5 years to be like a mainstay in the middle of your lineup.
We that one they got to figure out. In the month of June, Seiya has a 34 WRC plus. That is Tucker Barnhart level. That's Miles Mastrobuoni level.
People also pointing out in the chat that Barnhart has 2 more years on his contract too. Mancini.
Yeah,
2 years.
I don't know.
Contract.
Jed made some good moves. He made some really terrible moves. A couple of those older veterans, it's going to be throwing money just straight in the toilet. I mean, he could have. He could have let Tom keep that money. For as much as I want to take the money from Tom, he is just throwing that. But the Seiya thing is something to diagnose. I don't have the answer for you, or I would have told you straight away. But he is in a really rough stretch. And like I said, a couple of those at-bats tonight, he just doesn't look right. Like something just looks off. And as we've discussed a lot, Seiya is not the only one who falls into this category. Prior to Saturday in London, I think Happ falls into this category. Dansby falls into this category. You don't have a team of like true sluggers, right? Like I don't think you have anybody on this team unless Cody Bellinger is like fully back and healthy, which he hadn't been, right?
In Wisdom, because he's so boom
right.
bust.
Like you don't have like a 35, 40 homer guy. That's fine, right? It's not ideal, but it is what it is. But these guys are hitting even below that. I mean, you are just not getting slug, and this team needs slug from one or more of Seiya, Happ, and Swanson on a more consistent basis, because
Morel has the most homers on the team right now.
Outside of Christopher Morel, who you can't look at and rely on for that, right? Like, you can't rely on Christopher Morel to have a 950 OPS for the entire season, right? It's a hell of a run he was on, but
it's their most glaring need. We talked about that before we got on the air, and we were just chatting about, because Tom said over in London, hey, the way we're playing right now, we're buyers. Well, if you're buyers, slugging has got to be top of line. I mean, I don't know what kind of teams are going to be selling. I don't know what kind of players are going to be available. That's all going to become clearer over the next 2 weeks here. But that is their most glaring issue right now. They lose that game to the Cardinals 7-5. You get one guy up there just to knock a ball over the fence, changes the game instantly.
Yeah.
I mean, just having, because you're right, you have too many of these guys who are in that 15 to 20 home run category, and
when a few of those, they might not get there.
Right.
That's the thing too. Like, a few of those guys, I'm not sure that they're going to get to 15 or 20.
I mean, you think Swanson will probably give you around 20, Happ will give you around 20, Seiya, I mean, at this rate, we don't know, but you hope he gives you around that 15 to 20. You need a guy that gets you 30 plus.
Yeah.
You just need to out-homer teams.
Are you guys not counting Ohtani's home runs to the Cubs yet? I mean, because he's going to be on the Cubs, right?
Don't even get my hopes up.
Not yet, just because we can't retroactively apply.
I wish.
Okay.
So
I'll count him.
We can't add it to this game, but yeah, I think whatever it's a weird spot, because I'm inclined to believe whatever Seiya's dealing with, whatever this mystery ailment is. Obviously, he started the season coming back from an oblique injury, which is a difficult injury to have. It has derailed plenty of seasons. Go back and watch the Cubs' tenure with Cole Hamels, right? And see how difficult that is to deal with. But they've been talking about something, right? I don't want to speculate, especially when it's related to injury stuff, but I think I think that's what the problem is, because prior to that, in the month of May, he had a 164 WRC plus. And like I said, he had recently, I think a couple weeks ago, reached his first full 162 in the majors, and it was a 125 WRC plus. Not as much power as you would want for him over a 162 game pace, but the overall production, really solid, right? And if you're looking at a guy you're going to put out there every day in right field, it was really solid. And since then, it has just been absolutely in the tank. I don't know what it is. I don't really want to speculate, but I don't think this is reflective of the player that he is. But that begs the question, and this is how, when I said that to Dr. Brendan Miller earlier this evening on text message, his response was, why is he playing and hitting second then? And I don't have a good answer for that. He's in the chat here. He's going to start yelling at me. I don't have a good answer for that. It's a good point, and that was to your point. With moving guys around in the lineup, I give Ross credit for trying to figure stuff out, but he looks terrible. Baby, don't hit him second, right? That goes to your point. You don't have to believe that Tauchman or certain guys are your answer for every day until the end of September, when this season ends, or October or whatever. But some guys are playing well right now. They're hot.
Before we go, we have to do an ad here, but just let me say this:
Hit it.
The Cubs have been super cautious with with Justin Steele when he had the forearm thing, Seiya with the oblique thing, other guys that have gotten hurt. They have guys in Iowa. You telling me that for a cut, if you're telling if this whole thing with Seiya this month is injury related, you tell me that you can't put Tauchman in right, and then I don't know, you can play Morel in center, and then maybe call up Velasquez and let him DH, or Perlaza has been pretty good down there, and I don't know. I don't know where anyone could play. All I'm saying is that they have guys.
It's a fair point. Yeah,
and
I agree.
They've been very cautious, but for some reason this time around with Seiya, this second injury,
and they won't say what it is.
It's been that bad. So I see Ryan Herrera has joined us, so I'm going to tell him about how the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program is committed to helping families and businesses in the communities they serve, helping manage energy usage and lower energy bills now into the future. Corey.
Yeah, ComEd offers a wide variety of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across the territory. ComEd also offers free facility assessments that can help find energy-saving opportunities like for HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, or industrial processes.
Ooh, how does it work, Corey?
Let me tell you, Cody, an authorized engineer will work with you to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals and needs. These can be done in person or virtually and last approximately 2 hours. Within 3 to 4 weeks, customers will receive a report detailing energy efficiency projects that they can start working on immediately. Each recommendation will include estimated energy savings, project costs, potential incentives, and simple payback. If you own a business, don't wait. Get started saving money and energy today. For energy-saving tips, lighting incentives, or to schedule your free facility assessment, go to ComEd.com/poweringbiz.
Did you say ComEd.com/poweringbiz, Corey?
Yes, schedule it today, Cody. And I want to talk to you about one of our favorite sponsors, that is Shady Rays. Take on the sun with gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered for the warm weather ahead with premium polarized shades at an affordable price. I left my Shady Rays at my apartment when I came to the studio today, and boy, the sun, what are we calling it, smog? In Chicago today, the air quality,
straight up smoke.
I desperately wish that I had my Shady Rays today. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn, durable frames, and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. And that is not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they told us they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. If you break them watching Jameson Taillon pitch for the Chicago Cubs, Shady Rays will replace them. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after your purchase. Together with their customers, Shady Rays is providing much-needed support to nonprofit partners across the U.S. through Shady Rays Impact. From building play sets for pediatric cancer patients to providing young adults with MS the outdoor adventure of a lifetime, Shady Rays is making an impact in your community and others like it now and for years to come. If you don't love your Shady Rays, exchange for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. Exclusively for CHGO listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people.
And before our guy Ryan Herrera joins us, I want to talk about one more thing. Do you guys, I have a man cave at home, my room, little nice alcove spot in my room that I like to put stuff up on the wall. I like my little bobbleheads and things like that. I've gotten a few of them from Foco. Any good ones that you guys got?
I'm waiting on my Trey Mancini bobblehead.
I was going to say.
I'm still waiting for the mass shawarma one.
The Swarm Dog?
The Swarm Dog.
The Swarm Dog. We got the Wisniewski one hanging right in front of us. Foco.
Clark, a Cub.
A lot of great stuff. A lot of great sports memorabilia that you can buy online on their website. By just using the code CHGO, you can get all non-presale items. You can get fitted out in sports gear as well. It doesn't just have to be bobbleheads or memorabilia. You got hoodies. You got the shoes. You got signs. You got bobbleheads. Everything in between. It's spring and baseball season. Our guy Ryan's joining us. They got the Aloha shirts. They got the straw hats, the polos, bags, everything you need for a game. You need some new summer fits going to the beach. There's plenty of outfits that they have for you. You can get fitted out like tomorrow. Again, the best sports gear around. You can even get more decorations, even more than just the bobbleheads. Go check it all out. There's so much on there. Check out Foco.com. Click the link in the description below on YouTube for all non-presale items. Again, use that promo code CHGO. You get an awesome 10% off by using CHGO on Foco.com. Our guy Ryan Herrera, is he ready to join us here, Braggs?
He might be.
All right, we'll get him in a second here.
We're efforting it.
I saw a couple people in the chat kind of, again, talking about moving Seiya down in the lineup and how Ross has been talking about Seiya struggling and maybe he's struggling mentally. And body language on certain hitters is easier to read than others. And again, it's not something oftentimes a fan will pay attention to. They'll more just be frustrated that they see a strikeout. But Cody pointed it out on his final strikeout tonight. You just saw him kind of shake his hand, walk away frustrated. He's feeling it too. And hitting is such a mental game. Anybody who's played the game of baseball, anybody who's played softball, anybody who's played a sport in general, a lot of this is mental. Hitting is such a mental thing. If you're in a funk and you're not seeing the ball fly off the bat, I mean, that's a big time, like, you know, it's a big time blunder in your own head. You're like, God, I'm really letting the team down. And Seiya seems like that type of guy where he's almost wearing it a little bit too much. And I don't know. And as a manager, that's where Ross's role really becomes big is how do you talk a guy out of that?
And I think Seiya is one of those guys, too, who we're accustomed to, you know, even in his peaks and valleys, he's got a really good understanding of the strike zone and his own plate discipline. And there was the strikeout tonight. It just doesn't look good. So I think it's just something that they're going to have to figure out. I mean, like I said, they seem intent on keeping him out there and having him play through whatever this is. But yeah, I mean, you have to. It's creating problems for the offense on the whole. And again, he's not the only guy going through that. Happ had a really good weekend in London and has been on a real heater, but before that was struggling too. Obviously, again, Cody Bellinger 2 hits tonight, but prior to going on the AL and immediately after coming back, really not good. So
our guy Ryan is here. Got through those. A little bit of a technical difficulty there. No issues, though.
Bragg's difficulties.
Bragg's difficulties. Speaking of Bragg's, Ryan, the most important question of the night. Are you going to Bragg's party this weekend?
I wasn't even invited.
Whoa. Awkward. Okay. You've now been invited. Just check out the CHGO Bears Twitter. They got an invite online to Bragg sitting in his new driveway.
Ryan, my question for you is, obviously we've been going through it in the first portion of this podcast here, but is it weird for you to come into a podcast where you assume that we've been kind of complaining about stuff when you're riding a high on a 2-for-3 night for Nick Madrigal?
Yeah, like, what is there to complain about this game after a night like that? No, but I was able to hear part of it and understand like the offense was bad today, and maybe give a little bit of leeway for the whole London trip and the travel, and like stuff that we talked about last week going into it, like that is coming at a weird time. And obviously, the time changes, the long flights, all that stuff affects it. And then you have the smoke from Canada wildfires. Just like I couldn't even tell when the sun went down. It was just the exact same sky for hours. So I think stuff like that plays a factor.
Were you surprised that they played tonight?
Yeah, honestly, I was. I stood on the field for a little while pregame. We all did. Came upstairs. Like you could feel it. You could feel it, like kind of filling up your nose and kind of taste it in your throat. And like I had a headache when I came upstairs from just being out there for a while. Like, yeah, I'm surprised they played it. And it's something that we talked to Ian Happ after the game, and Cubs player rep or players union rep, and involved or at least consulted in some of those discussions that MLB and the MLBPA were having all day about it. And there's one of the things he mentioned is that there's no like baseline of like, okay, that air quality index hits this number, you can't play anymore. Like it's like a fluid type thing. So like I don't know, the Yankees and White Sox got postponed. I don't know what that was at. I think it might have been higher than what the Cubs reached.
It was
the Phillies,
higher.
I think. Yeah, I want to say the Phillies had a game postponed. I don't know what that air quality index was at, but it's like, yeah, it was one of those things where it was there's no number that tells you whether the game should or shouldn't be played. Again, yeah, for me, standing out there for an hour, maybe about an hour, and feeling the effects, like I couldn't, being a player on the field or a fan in the stands, like it wasn't comfortable. Like, it was uncomfortable for sure. It was an uncomfortable feeling. So I was a little surprised to see it get played. MLB obviously ruled that it was the conditions were safe with the experts they consulted and the players union, obviously, or players association. Um, they decided that it was good. It was safe enough to play. They did. They got all 9 innings in. But yeah, to answer your question, I was still kind of under the impression that there was definitely a chance this game would not be played today.
Ryan, probably want to talk about Tyone or, hear if any of there was talk on Tyone, but because we were just talking about it, I'm curious if there's been any discussion about the stretch that Seiya's in. I know that Ross has alluded a few times to him kind of like dealing with stuff, but they don't really want to get into those specifics, but he's obviously in a really rough stretch here. I know, he moves up to the 2-hole tonight. I'm just curious, even if not tonight, just lately, any thoughts on the kind of funk that he's in and ways for David Ross to get him out of it?
Yeah, nothing specifically for Seiya tonight, but I get what you mean. I mean, I'm just kind of quickly looking up, and it looks like his last 30 games, he's hitting 212. His last 15, he's at 217. Yeah, there was that like mystery ailment that he had a few weeks back that we still don't really know what was going on. And I think one of the main things is like, part of that is it's just baseball and guys go through ups and downs like that. I heard you guys talk about, Hap and Bellinger. Those two guys, so Hap, right? Hap had his like multiple week stretch where he was struggling, and now he's had a pretty good last couple of weeks. I mean, he didn't have a great game today, but he had a pretty good last couple of weeks. So it could, sometimes that happens in baseball. You have those elongated stretches of slumping or poor production, and then you kind of flip a switch real quick. You kind of the timing's right or whatever it is. Yeah, for Seiya specifically, it's a lot of what they talk about is kind of him continue like he does the good work, right? I haven't looked at where his like hard hit rate or his the BABIP or whatever that's been the last few weeks, but I know there was a time where he was hitting the ball really hard. It was just kind of always going at someone, or the BABIP luck wasn't there. I think what the Cubs kind of focus on is on trusting that Seiya Suzuki is a professional hitter and can get, as he continues to kind of put that work in behind the scenes, is just that's kind of how he gets out of it. Potentially switching him up in the order. He hit 2 today. Potentially switching him up in the order, maybe moving him down is a consideration, but I don't think that like is specifically imminent. Like it could happen, but I don't know that I'm like saying it's going to. But yeah, I'm with you in that it's been a pretty long stretch of games where he has some really good games and has some really good at bats, and then all of a sudden he's like kind of slumping again, right? So they trust that he's a professional hitter. As kind of at this point, it's kind of up to him to figure his way out of it.
I have to feel like a day off is coming for him at some point here soon. Maybe not tomorrow, but if he struggles again tomorrow, you have to think one might be on the horizon for him. Yeah. I was going to ask.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Jared Young coming up today. Obviously, he played with a couple of the guys in minor leagues that are on the major league roster now, Morel and Horner. Any more juice that brought to the locker room tonight? Are people excited to see him? Do they think, did Ross have anything, any specifics on how he wants to use him? Because, again, we saw tonight, Mancini took that final at bat, and I know Corey was talking about, well, why not give Jared a shot here to swing the bat? I mean, Mancini's been struggling at the plate. We didn't see it tonight. Do you think we'll see him in the lineup tomorrow? And any specifics that Ross has said about him, that how he wants to showcase him?
Yeah, well, as far as guys being excited to see him, Nico Horner talked about him. Roommate, I think he said in Double-A, had been roommates. So one of his really good friends from minor league baseball. Jared, he's been up before. Jared Young, I don't remember exactly when he came up last year, but it was towards the end of the season. Got a look, and then went back to AAA to start this year, where he's been raking. Honestly, he's been probably their best hitter. So Jared kind of earned that spot to come up and show and see what he could do. As far as how he'll be used, I mean, very basic answer kind of from Ross earlier in the day. Just kind of, he's a plays first base, can play some outfield. mashes righties, so probably going to be in a lot of those matchups. Kind of basic, kind of what you would expect to see from, again, a guy who mashes righties, especially in the minor leagues, and then a guy who plays first base and corner outfield. It is weird. It is weird because they have now 3 catchers and like 3 first basemen, right? Because Bellinger's not out to center field yet. He's still playing first. So they have 3 catchers and 3 first basemen right now. So it will be interesting to see how exactly he gets used. I don't think we can I think we should gauge that once he kind of is getting into games versus what Ross talked about pregame, because again, it was very basic and like, oh yeah, he could play first base, he could play some outfield. That's really all we got. So I'm interested to see how this kind of roster construction gets deployed, so to speak, and how Jared Young specifically mixes in at that first base spot.
All right.
I think we got to get to who you got, and let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When was there anything noteworthy on? We spent 20 minutes on Tyone, but any noteworthy commentary from him or Ross that the people need to know?
Yeah, I think with Tyone, one of the big things is lefties, right? Is that he's been like abnormally bad against lefties this year. Going into today, lefties had over 1,000 OPS against him, which is just like he's been a lot more consistent in his career. But you see the inconsistencies throughout this season, right? Like I think he's still only at 1 game of 6 innings pitched. So it's like the inconsistency has been there for the large majority of this season. But against lefties specifically, he just kind of talked about some of the, the four-seamer, just it hasn't been there what he wants to do, his curveball, whatever. Just talked about that he's not getting the results that he used to be getting when he was in the minor leagues, or not the minor leagues, sorry, when he was on different teams before this season, obviously. So one of the things, and I think it's one thing to just say like, oh, I'm going to do the right things. I'm going to get back in my bullpens in between starts and do that kind of stuff and whatever. I think is one thing, but I also think something that Jameson Tyone acknowledged today, he's like basically like he doesn't want to accept that he's just going through it, right? Like he's going to keep working, obviously, but he doesn't want to just get to a point where he's being complacent and just accepting that I'm going through this stretch right now and I got to get out of it, right? Like that's one of the things that he talked about. And I think he took some accountability today, which was good to see. Like something like Trey Mancini, we saw that on Sunday with the error and taking accountability for that. So I think you look at when guys might say like, oh, like, I'm going to get back in the bullpen and do whatever. Like that's one thing, but to take accountability and be like very informative about what you're seeing and why things are going wrong, talking about it and kind of being accountable and saying like basically what Tyone said is like, I got to get better, and that can't just be the norm. I can't just keep saying like, I'm going to keep working. He basically said, I got to be better and I'm going to do that. And I mean, no one wants to hear that. Everyone wants to see it. Right. So he has to be better. We'll see.
I know one person in particular that doesn't want to hear it.
Corey Freedman doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. I think he has a track record that he's been better in the past, and he did it in New York, right? So to see him keep going through all this stuff it's got to be frustrating for him, obviously, and for the Cubs. And I just don't. I'm struggling to understand it because he's had track record of the past. So I don't know. We'll see.
All right, we got to do who you got because Barb has to go to bed, and she is cracking me up in the chat, bro.
Oh,
the
man.
absolute wild card that is Barb.
Chat's off the rails.
If you, I mean,
who Kevin won or did Ryan win?
Whoever had Nico, because he's the only one who got a hit of anyone who took.
Who did you take? You had Morel, right, Ryan?
I did not win.
You had 3 strikes.
Whoever had Horner.
We need to study on Saya's numbers when I pick, because I part of the reason I asked Ryan about it and why I'm talking about it, I'm a believer in Seiya Suzuki. I think when we were seeing him closer to a 125, 130 WRC plus, like I believe he can be even better than that when I look at him and the way he plays and stuff. So
profile,
I'm looking at this stretch and trying to figure out what's going on because I don't believe this is reflective of who he is, which is why I pick him. And I think I pick him in Who You Got more than I pick anybody else. And maybe it's me. Maybe the answer is me. I got to stop doing that.
You could be like me and just start taking all the guys who really are.
I'm going to take
really
Madrigal every day.
Yeah, there you go. See, I turned Madrigal season around. Credit to me.
I don't think Ryan would let me take Madrigal.
Yeah,
I don't think I'm allowed.
Brendan's making his case. Dansby won, made a great play at shortstop. The unfavorable air pollution knocked down 2 would-be home runs. Yeah.
No. Brendan rooting against Nico here. Nico is the winner and Kevin is the winner tonight.
I'm taking home the win.
Does that point go to you or Luke?
Craig says that I need to start.
That's a good question.
Huh? Oh, wait, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, I was gonna say you should be a producer pick, but then you're not a producer
pick. Yeah, even though you're hosting the show.
But he's not.
I'll take home the win for the producers in that one.
Bragg's picked Ohtani and he did Homer.
Yeah, I took Ohtani.
Yeah.
You got it.
Bragg's is like, I'm taking Ohtani.
He did Homer in a Chicago-related game. So how that counts, I don't know.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Ryan, we appreciate you joining from the park, man. Late night, tough one to watch tonight, but we appreciate your insight too, man. Thanks to everybody in the chat for hanging in there. Barb, thanks for hanging in there with us. I know you got to get to sleep. Guys, thanks for letting me share the set with you. This was fun.
Tomorrow, it's me and Jared.
Cool.
Willis.
Can't wait to watch.
With Ryan from the ballpark. No pre, just post.
Just post tomorrow. Cool.
Hopefully bounce back tomorrow.
Drew Smiley and Aaron Nola tomorrow, so it doesn't get any easier for that Cubs lineup that put up 1 run today. 5-1 the final. Phillies take it home. Game 1 of that series. Cubs will try to rebound tomorrow again behind the lefty, Drew Smiley. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs Postgame Podcast. We will talk to you tomorrow. Fly the W.